All right, welcome to Frontline. Got my new haircut. It's 6 o'clock here on the East Coast, and we begin tonight with a major diplomatic move. President Trump says he'll welcome Chinese President Xi Jinping to the White House this September, setting the stage for what could be one of the year's most consequential meetings. Well, the military right now began actually pounding new targets in Iran for violating the ceasefire. We're going to have more on that in just a sec. Plus, one of Europe's biggest political comebacks may actually be back on. A French appeals court has actually cleared the way for right-wing populist Marie Le Pen to run for president next year after restoring her eligibility following a politically motivated conviction for embezzling European Union funds. Right. She will actually campaign while serving part of her sentence under electronic monitoring. I actually kind of hope she wins. And is Florida's housing boom finally going bust? Right now, 1 in every 7 homes for sale in the entire United States is in the Sunshine State, with sellers cutting prices, buyers pumping the brakes, and economists saying the warning signs are getting harder to ignore nationwide. We're going to be diving more into this tomorrow with Representative Byron Donalds. But first, the plot thickens for Graham Platner. Who could have possibly seen this one coming? Oh, right, we did. Let's do this. All right, so the cascade of Democrats pulling their endorsements today from Graham Platner is hilarious, especially because they all knew about these allegations months ago, presumably even when they vetted him. What's even funnier for me is that the Nazi tattoo, that was no big deal. In fact, they justified it somehow. He said he would rape a man breaking into his house. No, not because he was gay, but just for dominance. No Democrats pulled their endorsement then. He was sexting women, like sending dirty messages over his, text messages while married. No problem with Democrats on that one, probably because, there's a congressional slush fund for that stuff to settle it. All right, even on a hookup app that was also used by sexual predators to contact minors, that was actually also okay with Democrats. Getting blackout drunk, that was totally fine with all these Democrats. After that, by the way, Elizabeth Warren came out and said, yeah, that's my kind of man, after saying this about Pete Hegseth, though.
I'm really happy to answer,
yes.
And that is, it is dangerous to the national security when we have someone who has repeatedly been drunk. We have affidavits, we have eyewitnesses who have said this. I care about the national security of the United States because I care about my children and my grandchildren.
Thanks for that one, Laura Loomer. Oh, the double standards. Yeah, it's because their guy was never oh, wait, that's him, real drunk, half naked in a bar. He admitted to having a drinking problem, actually, who presumably, as a veteran, would have, if elected, been on the Armed Services Committee. You're okay with that, though, right, Pocahontas? It was also fine when Platner said that he was a communist. That was actually a plus in the Democrat Party. He trained a militant Antifa group. Not one Democrat seemed to be concerned about that. Talked about masturbating in a porta-john. No one pulled their endorsements for that. I would have thought that one would have been pretty bad, but apparently not for Democrats. Oh, he also physically abused his other ex-girlfriend, but that wasn't enough for the Believe All Women Ro Khanna. But now the woman from the article, by the way, that came out over a month ago, she comes forward personally, and now Democrats start pulling their endorsements.
I believe that it's time for him to drop out of the race. The focus of today should be to respond to the gravity of what so many of us have read, and I think that the only appropriate response is for the campaign to come to an end.
Yeah, and since that's apparently the party's new daddy, look at some of these. Barrage of tweets from Democrats who never break ranks, by the way, now telling Graham to drop out, acting like, oh, this is where I draw the line, which is so disingenuous considering when all these allegations, again, they came out in an article over a month ago and they just ignored them. You know what Democrats said then? Look at all these people. Bernie, Warren, Booker, Schumer, Schiff, Mark Kelly, Ro Khanna, Rashida Tlaib, many of which they went on stage and campaigned with him. This is what they said before yesterday. The same concerns were apparently fine.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Graham Platner is the next senator from the state of Maine.
He's owned those mistakes, owned up to them, and he's evolved. And that's what leadership looks like.
I'm going to give him a measure of grace.
Like most everybody, there are stumbles along the way, and there are some things that he regrets having done, and I'm sure the public will hear about them.
I endorsed Graham Platner
we're going to beat Susan Collins and take back the Senate.
If I lived in Maine, I would hold my nose and I would pull that lever and I would vote for him.
Yeah. Mika Brzezinski today was the best.
There's not a police report, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. And there's not a legal case playing out here for due process to see itself through. What aspects of this story brought it to the level of publishable? Were you able to see the interactions between Graham Platner and this alleged victim? Did you actually physically see them? Did she produce them for you?
It's not, no charges, right, Mika? Kind of like, Brett Kavanaugh. There were no charges, no specific accusations from some crazy woman from 30 years prior, none of which could be corroborated at all. And diss you on that, Mika?
Personally, in terms of the political landscape, I really think the Republicans should ask for a FBI investigation at this point. What do they have to lose?
So it's not publishable for Graham Platner's allegation, but it warrants an FBI investigation for a Republican. Got it. My Lord, by the way, I am loving this. This is like political cocaine. I am hoping this party eats itself alive. You know what, Graham Platner, though? The Dems completely did you dirty, all right? They propped you up. They raised you money. They presumably vetted you and probably knew about all this stuff and still thought you could win because you were some like cosplaying blue-collar oyster farmer, of which you're not. And then when it became inconvenient for them, they threw you out with the bathwater in the last 48 hours. They have run this coordinated attack on you, Graham. So you should screw them back. Don't drop out. Make them pay for ruining your life. This is just me speaking, because the only thing that changed was the polls. Most recent poll from, by the way, before yesterday's story came out, had Graham Platner losing by 5 points, 4 points to Susan Collins. And then when they saw that, and I'm making an educated guess on how this went based on my 15 years in politics on here, Democrats were like, oh, man, we got to get rid of this guy, just like they did with Joe Biden. And here's why now. According to the way Maine runs their elections, Platner only has until this coming Monday, the 13th, to drop out. Otherwise, he's the guy on the ballot, and you can't put anyone else there. And they're going to do the same thing they did, just like with Kamala Harris. So she was just anointed without an election. It's so funny. The party screaming for democracy would be able to appoint the new Democrat Senate candidate without a public vote, just choosing whoever they want without an actual sliver of democracy. This is why I don't take Democrats seriously on anything, because they try, democracy. And then they make every effort to avoid it in their own party by circumventing their supporters and their voters' votes. But let's talk about democracy while we're here. Over 70% of Maine Democrats voted for Platner, and still, with all these allegations out there, 70+%. In fact, he swept nearly every county, every town, and set a record for the most primary votes by any Democrat's U.S. Senate candidate in Maine ever. Wow. I mean, the Democrats were okay with all this stuff. So I never want to hear or be lectured about decorum or moral character or anything else by any other Democrat ever again, especially ones from Maine, by the way. But what can Republicans learn from this? Maximum pressure campaigns work. See, this is how Democrats always operate on every race for every single candidate all the time. Set a target, pile on, don't let up, keep going, keep pounding until the very end. Republicans, historically, they'll like write one story about it, have some temporary outrage, and then move on. This time, we, especially on this show in particular, did not let this go, along with some other people like the Maine Wire, who's been all over this. And it led to enough press that Platner slipped in the polls enough to have the Democrats jettison him, which looks like what they're doing. This is the model, Republicans. This is how Republicans need to run every election forever going forward, and use this election for everything else. Do not let any Democrat ever live down their association with Graham Platner. Never. U.S. Army combat veteran, Purple Heart recipient, who Platner said didn't deserve to live, my man Teddy Daniels, and Maine GOP chairman Jim Deyermond. All right, Teddy, I mean, this is, I guess, justice served, right?
Well, no, actually not yet, Carl, because honestly, we want him on the ballot.
That's fair.
And if I were Graham Platner, like, I'd throw a giant middle finger in the air and say, I have all the campaign funds. I have the bargaining chips. So we want him on there because the NRSC has not even dropped their bombs yet. Okay? So, Graham, if you're watching, stay on the ballot. Screw them. Stay on, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. They tried to ruin him. But, you know, Jim, this is like, this is such low-hanging fruit. You know, the accuser, Jenny Rakiot, or whatever her name is, come out saying why it took her so long to come forward. She went on, you know, Jake Tapper, and she did all these things. She said, one of the reasons I didn't come forward sooner was that the huge moral conflict that I'd be between supporting him in politics but not supporting him as a person. Well, like, I'm sorry, if you don't have the IQ to distinguish someone who allegedly, by her own words, raped her, what do you think?
I tried to warn people early on about Graham Platner, where he was. The Maine Wire, the only conservative news source in Maine, kept telling people constantly, but the Maine liberal media hid this, and they're to blame for all of this, I believe. And there's one other thing. No one has heard from AOC. Everybody else has jumped the Platner ship, but not AOC. I really think we need to send a search party out for her to find out exactly what she feels now.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Democrats, Teddy, I think we should never, ever let them live this down. Because here was Cory Booker 2 weeks ago. Roll it.
He certainly has a lot of issues and a lot of questions to answer and address. I certainly hope we pick up a seat here. For me and people of the state of New Jersey, dear God, we need to get the Senate back so we can start checking this out-of-control president.
I mean, at any cost, Teddy, or like, what is it going to be?
Carl, this needs to be hung like a millstone around every single Democrat's neck that stood by him. They were okay with the Nazi tattoo. Okay with the whole disgusting porta potty thing. Okay with disparaging women. Okay with saying Chris Kyle was shooting innocent people. I could go on and on. They were okay with him sexually assaulting Republican women. But they draw the line. They draw the line. And it's like, Carl, their morals are parallel to polling numbers. Mm-hmm. Okay? I guarantee you that if Graham Platner's numbers were still up, they'd stand by him on this too.
100%.
Now that knowing he can't win, now they're going to throw him to the wolves.
100%. And Jim, the other thing too is, so they got this process. He's got to drop out by Monday. Otherwise, he's the guy on the ballot. Do you have any inside information whether he's staying, whether he's going, or anything?
We don't know at this time. It's a very closely knit group of people who I'm sure are on the phone daily to him, asking him to step out. But at this point in time, we haven't heard anything. And he needs to officially make that notification by the 13th. And then they have until the 27th to replace him with a candidate. And I go along with Teddy. Teddy's a good man. I agree. I would love to see him give them the thumb in the eye, or whatever you want to say, and he's going to stay on the race, because I don't believe that this is the end of the tidal wave of people coming out against Graham Platner. It's just a tsunami, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if it seems like Graham is the type of guy that will stay in spite of them, because he's that kind of guy, because he did the things.
Carl, they never they had the chance to pull, to stop this a long time ago, and they didn't. They own it, hook, line, and sinker. So we're just sitting back and enjoying the Democrats, this folly that is Graham Platner.
Oh, no, 100%. And what's funny, we're scrolling the names of the Democrats now encouraging him to drop out. It's basically all of them, some of which have their own internal controversies. But Teddy, Jim, pleasure as always.
Great being here.
Pleasure's mine, Carl. Thank you.
Take
care, Ted.
You'll see more Teddy a little bit later in the show. We got another edition of Voices of Valor coming your way, and it's also this week's 2A Tuesday feature. you thought yesterday was good, wait until you see this. But first, the battle over election integrity just took another dramatic turn. A Biden-appointed judge blocks a voter verification database, and now impeachment articles are on the table. What's going to happen next? Christina Bobb going to join me live on that in a second.
This was America in 1980, held in contempt by foreign nations. Across the world, people were losing their freedoms. So many countries thought America had seen its day, but we knew better. So we stopped complaining together and started working together. Today, America is strong again. We're looking to the future with confidence and pride. America's best days and democracy's best days lie ahead.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. He had a life insurance policy. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
When Conor McGregor fights, you're witnessing something once in a lifetime.
Surprise, surprise, the king is back!
All my life I want money and power.
Oh! Conor McGregor transcended the sport. Max Holloway. That's a real warrior. I'm right here. You're in for a treat.
McGregor versus Holloway, Saturday, July 11. Free with your subscription, only on Paramount Plus.
From senior to childcare to pets and more, the new Care.com makes it easier than ever to find the care you need. And you don't have to hire just anyone. You can find a background-checked caregiver who's the right fit for you. Join now and find care at Care.com.
My heart has experienced life-changing wins, losses, and countless miles. To keep living at my speed, I trust Cunol CoQ10. CoQ10 is the #1 cardiologist-recommended supplement for heart health. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You thought you were booking a relaxing vacation, but hackers just booked a ticket into your private life. Your passport, your birth date, your identity exposed. PC-Matic, cybersecurity built by Americans for America.
Weird. Another day, another rogue judge causing some problems after a Biden-appointed judge, Judge Sparkle Suknanan, whatever. Yes, that's actually her real name. Remember, she blocked the Trump administration from using an upgraded federal database to help states verify voter eligibility. One congressman taking matters into his own hands, though. Arizona Congressman Abe Hamadeh is now drafting articles of impeachment accusing the judge of overstepping her constitutional authority, posting on X in part, "It was a blatant and unlawful subversion of the president's executive authority and direct assault on election integrity. Judges who weaponize their bench to interfere with the president's constitutional duties must be held accountable." Yes, this should be the model for any judge that has any decision overturned on presidential injunctions. Attorney at Judicial Watch and author of the fantastic book Defiant, Christina Bobb. I have a sneaking suspicion you agree with me on that.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you on that. I think we are long overdue for impeaching some of these federal judges. The problem that we have is it takes 2/3 of the Senate to convict, which we're probably not going to get there, anytime in the near future. So I appreciate what Abe Hamadeh is trying to do. I support the idea of holding judges accountable that are making political decisions. But the other thing that Congress could do, which is much, much easier than impeaching the judge, is just legislate. Just actually pass the legislation saying, what the president is, what Congress can do, what the president can do, what information he can access. We already know that these voter rolls and access to the voter rolls is lawful. So I would like to see Congress just act and make it very clear what needs to be done to protect our elections. I think that's easier than actually getting a judicial impeachment.
Christina, you being a Marine, you're making far too much sense here. And I don't think Congress speaks that language en masse. But this is another one. A federal judge has blocked this DOJ subpoena for names of the 2020 Fulton County, Georgia election workers. Now, why would they do that?
Yeah, because they're running interference for political operatives. I mean, I think the president's well within his rights, or the administration is well within the rights to do this. This is actually a grand jury subpoena. So it was the jury that requested this. And the judge is basically saying, no, we're not going to allow you to investigate that. Certainly, they can take it up on appeal. You know, they can run through the legal gamut, but it throws sand in the gears on any investigation. And I think they're just trying to run out the clock. So conservatives need to grow a backbone. Those in positions of authority who actually have authority to do something about this, they need to grow a backbone, because they've been way too impotent and way too impish for far too long. And I mean, they're getting their rear ends handed to them on basic, simple things.
Yeah, basic, simple things that we still can't get right for some reason. Speaking of not getting anything right, Gavin Newsom has a warning, quote, warning for anyone considering helping President Trump, quote, interfere with his election or counting of the election. Roll this.
If you violate California's laws, if you interfere with our voters, tamper with our ballots, or meddle in our election, you will be prosecuted. Doesn't matter who gave the order. That's why I'm moving forward with new legislation that would make it a felony to seize ballots before the vote has been certified by state and county officials.
One, there was like 3 camera angles to that impromptu press conference for Glamour Boy over there. But I'm also pretty sure, and you're the lawyer here, not me, but there's this weird thing, it rhymes with supremacy clause, which ensures that, I don't know, states can't override federal laws.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. And this is specifically a threat to federal law enforcement and election workers, because the only people who would have access to quote unquote seize ballots, as that's what he said he's making a felony, would be the actual election workers if they see something nefarious and they try to preserve evidence, or federal law enforcement. If federal law enforcement is tipped off and try to intervene in any way, he's trying to make that illegal. So he's basically throwing down the gauntlet, saying it's state versus federal now, and we're not going to comply with federal law. This is a direct threat to federal law enforcement.
Christina, I got very little time for this one, but I got to cover this. A Haitian illegal alien truck driver was given a CDL by Massachusetts. He struck and killed a Pennsylvania state trooper. Now, Michael Bond was allowed in under Biden in 24 as a parolee. 25, parolee was terminated, but refused to leave the country. Then, look, they make CDLs impossible for law-abiding citizens to get. I know this because I went through this process. Written tests, training, skills, everything. How did this guy get one? And if they want it to be, they want those CDL lax standards to be nationwide, why don't we have, I don't know, nationwide carry permits?
Because they're catering to illegal immigrants. They're catering to people who can help them get elected simply by existing in the country. And so they want to provide ways for them to exist in this country and being able to support themselves. So they're putting illegal immigrants, they're putting illegal voters ahead of law-abiding citizens who are paying taxes. And I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, and this is incredibly tragic.
Things that make you say, Christina Bobb, appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, President Trump received a warm welcome in Turkey this morning as the 2-day NATO summit begins. But will the U.S. actually pull out of NATO because they didn't help us at all in the Iran conflict? Details next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Your house might not be a mansion, but it still deserves a $19 pro home cleaning. Your cleaner will scrub everything from your toilet to your stovetop. Your whole place will be vacuumed and dusted. Honestly, you might think the price is too good to be true, but once you try it, you'll never go back to cleaning the house yourself. Pick a date, choose your cleaner, and book your first cleaning today for only $19.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped some dolphins age healthier than others. It's called C15, and the more they had in their diet, the healthier they aged. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, Fatty 15 is bringing this discovery out of the ocean into everyday life to give your cells the same age-related benefits as all those happy, healthy dolphins. Fatty 15, healthy aging for all.
You know, when I came in here, I was at a 15, and that's no joke. My spinal cord was almost severed. I feel like I'm gaining my freedom. My pain level of the day is nothing.
No pain now? No. Okay, feels good? Yep.
And I can feel my legs waking up and getting feeling back in my leg and my foot I haven't had in a year and a half, 2 years. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Venati succeeds where others fail.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
Okay, so one of my favorite sporting events is Trump going to talk to globalists like NATO in the summit in Turkey today, alongside with Erdogan and the presidential complex. Now, several world leaders are met for dinner there today. It was today for us, tonight for them. Ukraine President Zelensky, who's not a member of NATO, by the way, he will be meeting with President Trump tomorrow. Trump speaking with President Putin before he even landed in Turkey, telling reporters he still believes the war could end, but President Trump also made very clear where we stand with our so-called NATO allies.
I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we help them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us?
Yeah, he's got a point. I mean, all of Europe, basically, which is NATO, I've divided up into two parts: people whose asses we saved and people whose asses we kicked. And they were not there for us in the Iran conflict, especially in the early days. So why would we waste our money on them? I'm just going to break this down. The last hour, by the way, CENTCOM has announced strikes against Iran for attacking commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Rebecca Grant, national security analyst and senior fellow at the Lexington Institute, and Mike Sarraille, retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer and chief talent officer of Overwatch Mission Critical. All right, Rebecca, we just launched this new wave of attacks. It's almost like Iranians can't be trusted. That's so weird.
Well, and these were attacks on a Qatari ship and a Saudi ship, I believe, one a big LNG tanker, I believe using that southern route by Oman. Incredible that Iran is still doing this. And I liked CENTCOM's note that this is going to be major retribution. This is not just taking out a radar site or a drone emplacement. This is going to be actual punishment for these strikes. And we're going to have to see that escalate if Iran's going to keep this up.
No, 100%, Mike. You know, we laid out, all this stuff the other day about like what's on the target deck, how long is this going to go on. But these strikes, these new strikes, the markets also are kind of like, it'll be over tomorrow. And they're not reacting the same way they did early on. Have we just accepted the fact that we're going to be in conflict with Iran in perpetuity because they've been in conflict with us since 1979?
I was just going to say it. For 47 years, We've accepted this. To Rebecca's point, I hope we hit them and we hit them hard and hit critical infrastructure. They've got to feel it. Take their power out. As much as that sucks for the Persian people, they don't learn. They don't learn. They don't abide by law. So if we have a group that is irrational, who is not, doesn't see the world in the same way we do, then you've got to hit them hard until they get the message and they feel the pain.
Yeah, there was actually a study done on this, and that 100% of bad guys, when you dropped a bomb on them, they stop being bad guys. But that's, just me. Rebecca, the other thing is we have spent, let's get back to this NATO thing. They were nowhere for us. Absolutely nowhere. We have spent so much money, $1 trillion to, I think the second place person is under $100 million, 1/10 of us. We spend more on defense than the next 24 countries combined, most of which are allies. And yet they can't, there's Trump's tweet right there. They can't be bothered to help us when we asked for it.
And as Trump says, ridiculous. So I think the fact that President Trump has gone to Ankara to this summit is a really good sign. Look, we need NATO. We're not going to give Putin the satisfaction
Why do we need
of pulling
NATO,
out, because we're not going to give Putin the satisfaction of destroying that alliance or leave Europe to China's inroads. Okay. We need them for security up in the Baltics, but they have got to do much better. They helped out in the Red Sea. They could help out here in the Strait of Hormuz. Most of all, they've got to spend more. You know who's doing it? Poland at 5%. Poland offering to host another brigade combat team. Let's see some U.S. Abrams tanks there alongside the Poles on the eastern front.
Also, Poland's like one of the countries that gets it right on the immigration stuff by basically not letting any of these refugees in. Mike, let's talk theory here, okay? Trump and Putin have been talking a lot. In theory, let's say Putin is somehow overthrown as a leader, doesn't get reelected, which would be impossible because he has a hold on all those elections. But shouldn't Americans and Russians, the Russian people I'm talking about, shouldn't we be more aligned? Similar religious base, similar values outside of Putin's communist dreams. Shouldn't we be better allies with the people of Russia? What is holding that back? Is it a global force that doesn't want us to be aligned for energy supremacy, or what is it?
Well, I'll tell you this. One, Putin is on his last legs. They are feeling the pain, not only from a gas perspective. You've got to hand just the Ukrainian people, the little country that could, is what I'm calling it now. They've been innovative, they've been resilient, and quite frankly, they've redefined warfare. It's 21st century asymmetric warfare. And we do have the luxury of watching from the sidelines, and it's going to change everything. But, with the recent rationing of oil, Ukraine has created a war on two fronts, the war on the Ukraine front and now the one with the Russian people. I see it as an opportunity, and I know where you're going with this.
Mike,
this is an opportunity to bring Putin into the fold, and that further isolates China. But what that looks like, that's the million-dollar question.
I completely agree. Got to leave it right there. Dr. Rebecca Grant, Mike Sarraille, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, folks, recently Newsmax asked you to send in pictures of your American flags to celebrate America's 250. Tonight, we got one from farmer Sly Hajovsky in his son and grandson, 4th and 5th generation farmers. We love the farmers. Proud Americans in Ganado, Texas. All right, coming up, the socialist hero of New York City who championed taxing the rich, now lining his own pockets. All that and more. Culture Clash.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
What if I told you you can get a brand new metal roof from Erie Home for 50% off the installation? Now you can. Our metal roofs are proven to withstand 120 miles per hour wind and 2-inch hail, all backed by a 50-year warranty. Call now for your free estimate.
Now tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine
whose lives have been completely destroyed, family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people. But the food crisis is growing for Jewish families and especially for the elderly.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Your gift helps provide critical food when it's needed most. Call or go online now.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
This is the blueprint of Democrats of what's to come if they take power nationwide. Socialists like New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani come in, they take everyone's money, they make all the revenue-generating folks leave by overtaxing businesses, and then they give themselves pay raises. And Mamdani-appointed commission, of course, is pushing for nearly 20% pay raises for all the high-ranking New York City officials. This includes the mayor's salary, which would go from like $260,000 to $305,000. You've got big 18% bumps for basically everybody going down the line. This is crazy to me. I mean, unbelievable. 64 elected officials are going to get more than 18% salary increases. All in with benefits and all that and pension, you're looking at over $2.4 million per year in all these costs. Unbelievable. Median income going down, their salaries going up. Communism. Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe and host of Tony Katz today. I mean, Tony, I could have seen this coming without a crystal ball.
You saw it coming. We all saw it coming. This is exactly how it works. The plan is for those in the inner circle, they do well, and everybody else, they suffer, but they suffer together. And that's what's key and important. What New Yorkers have to accept. Well, collectivism is there's warmth because you all have to huddle together because you're not allowed to use the heat, nor can you afford it in their society. What New Yorkers have to do is say, you promised us free subways. Why are you getting a raise when we get free subways? I want to see people on the streets by the tens of thousands. I want to see them surrounding Gracie Mansion. I want to see them climbing the fences like they try to do the White House and Trump. I want to see them enraged. I want to see effigies, because if not, it turns out that when you're angry, you're only angry one way, and that is about the destruction of Western civilization. But you need to be angry about this if you're really going to stay true to the cause.
All right, but you know, while all these commies are patting themselves on the back, Kay, then they're giving themselves raises. Almost half of New York City schools are failing. More than 900 New York City schools, nearly half of all of them in the city have fewer than half of their students passing math, reading, or both. I mean, this is unbelievable. Yet the New York City Chancellor of Evaluation says our teachers are receiving 98% effective and highly effective ratings. What is it? It's just because their buddies are evaluating them?
Yeah, that's legitimately what's happening. Their buddies are evaluating them. Carl, remind me again, you have this great pitch. It's like a rule or a law or something about how politicians, teachers, pretty much anyone who does a job has to be held to a certain standard within that job. Otherwise, they don't, what is it again? Get paid?
Oh, right.
Or get to do that job. I can't remember, but the way you phrase it is fantastic. And I think that's what the entire country needs, because this isn't unique to New York. This is happening in every single major city. So Folks at home, if you want your kids to be stupid and unable to read and contribute nothing to society, keep voting for Democrats, because that's what you're going to get.
I mean, literally, it's actually shocking. But here's another one from California. Tony, they want to teach what they're calling Black English in California. And I'm like, I'm sorry, if I'm imagining this correctly, if someone came into, I don't know, a Fortune 500 company in a client-facing role, and I would say, like, I'm not going to hire you because I don't want you to speak to my clients like that.
You, as an employer, can have all the rules you want, and you can have certain demands. The demand here is not of an employer or an employee. This is about students. And I remember this when we referred to it as Ebonics. Isn't that the same thing? It's all just a little bit of history repeating. This is the subject coming back. I do agree with the idea there's no such thing as Black English or White English. There is English, and there is English only, nothing else. So the argument really is about how can you make things easier for my kid based on a skin color and based on the desire I have at the moment. And that desire will change moment to moment to moment. The answer here is no, which means California is absolutely going to do this.
And Kay, I got 30 seconds or less left here, but let me ask you the same question.
Okay, that's not fair. You can't come at me with a question. I mean, it's so stupid. Like Tony said, it's the flavor of the month, and it's only going to do a disservice to all of those kids. There is English. There's actually Wenglish as well, but I'm not going to get into that. There is English, there's English, there's English, and that's it. It's that simple.
It seems like we'll go with English. Okay. Kay, Tony, pleasure as always. All right, coming up. Few vets taking shots at targets and verbal shots at each other. I was not immune from the criticism. We got a special Two-Way Tuesday, Voices of Valor, coming up next.
Clients who rolled over their IRAs 2 or 3 years ago have doubled and tripled their retirement accounts. Billionaire Eric Sprott disclosed he has invested 98% of his $3 billion fortune into gold and silver, and said gold's going to $10,000 an ounce. Vanguard and Goldman warned of a lost decade ahead for stocks. Gold's role isn't to make you rich, it's to help you survive what's coming. Aren't these supposed to be your golden years? Call Patriot Gold Group at 1-800-778-4156. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide, home of the America 250 no-fee-for-life IRA. Call now and see how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver. Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Feeling winded and short of breath when you should be enjoying life? Your days are made for more than this. And if you find yourself stopping more and more to catch your breath, you could be experiencing what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency. Don't let shortness of breath ruin your day. Give yourself a boost with Boost Oxygen. A few deep breaths of Boost Oxygen is all you need to help combat the negative effects of what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency, so you can get back to doing the things you love. Boost Oxygen contains pure supplemental oxygen that is safe for daily use and comes in a portable, lightweight canister without a prescription.
Now I live life on my terms. With Boost Oxygen, I am unstoppable.
Get all-natural 5-star respiratory support with Boost Oxygen. Get Boost Oxygen at these fine retailers.
As we mark 250 years of America, Wounded Warrior Project honors those who serve. They've given us their commitment and sacrifice. We're here to give them a brighter future. Our programs and services help warriors access VA benefits, improve mental and physical health, and thrive for a lifetime. They've given us their best. Join us in supporting them through the next 250 years of strength and resilience. Visit woundedwarriorproject.org/USA250.
Our veterans deserve nothing less than everything we can do for them because of everything they've done for us.
This village right here shows our commitment to the American military veterans that need a little helping hand, and I can't think of a better place than to locate it here on Long Island
promise of Tunnel to Towers that we're going to take care of these heroes that take care of us. So today we broke ground on a promise that we're going to deliver this beautiful village for these great veterans.
Go to T2T.org.
All right, 2A Tuesday, so let's do some gun stuff. And what's better than a few vets, I don't know, shooting guns, talking about the Second Amendment. If you got something, I'm all ears. Tonight, we're doing 2A Tuesday, a little different, Voices of Valor style. Me and the guys talking about the right to bear arms, the duty we have to exercise it, and the left's never-ending mission to take away our guns. Good luck taking them away from us on this trip. Check it out.
That's what I'm looking forward to, is when all these purple-haired freaks come out of the cities and they're like, oh, we're going to do our takeover of your city.
Carl Higbie, former Navy SEAL, evening host, Newsmax.
And the hills start singing country roads.
Okay.
The banjo starts to play.
Try
that in a small town. There's a great line.
Well,
Teddy reminds you about grandfather's gun.
Mark Morgan, veteran, United States Marine Corps, acting commissioner of CBP, special agent, FBI.
And you said your dad.
That was my dad's.
I mean, you don't see that much anymore.
No.
You know, that's starting to go away. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's the perpetual weakness of society because they don't want you to defend yourself.
Right.
Well, and it's also the, hey, you're not welcoming, so that means you're a racist. You don't like people who are different than you. You're a xenophobe.
Jason Redman, retired Navy SEAL, author, speaker, entrepreneur.
All this other bullshit.
A lot of it, too.
What's wrong with protecting the culture that you grew up with?
Well,
but it's the same thing. It's like, well, that founders never anticipated the AR-15 when they wrote the Second Amendment. I'm like, they didn't anticipate the modern liberal woman when they wrote the 19th either. So.
It all started with the attack on masculinity.
Teddy Daniels, former U.S. Army infantry security consultant.
It all started. Anything masculine became an enemy to the left because I think they knew over the past 5, 6, maybe 10 years, a society of strong men would never stand for what's happening in this country.
That's why they're trying to make all our kids gay.
Yeah, they just wouldn't have it.
Well, and with the Second Amendment and the weapon issue, we were talking about this earlier today, is that I think that it's driven by this innate ideology, right? And that the ideology, though, is devoid of the truth, fact, and ignorance. So let's take, active shooting situations, right? Mm-hmm. So everybody blames the AR platform, right? So-called assault rifles. But what they don't tell the American people is the majority of gun violence is committed with what? Handguns. If you go to the major metropolitan cities throughout this country, the truth is the majority of violence is black on black. So we don't have
to a factor of 20.
Correct. And so
over white people.
That's exactly right. So we don't have a fact-based discussion.
No.
And then we don't. And
it's all feel-good discussion.
It is.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
Well, hammers kill more than AR-15s.
Correct. And we know, right? Because we know a little bit about firearms, but we know you can take all the AR platforms away. Okay, so then they'll just use a shotgun.
Or a pressure cooker.
Or a pressure cooker, that's exactly right. And what's frustrating to me is that the Congress, they won't do the hard stuff. Like they won't talk about mental illness.
No.
Right?
They'll talk about it, they just don't do anything.
They just don't do anything about it.
They ban ARs in Connecticut.
Same gun.
This is a 308.
Yeah, exactly.
Not banned.
But it functions the exact same way.
Correct.
Actually does more damage than an AR would.
Yep.
Not banned.
That's just good, clean, all-American fun right there.
Yeah, take a look at Chicago.
Right?
They have some
Baltimore.
of the... Baltimore.
They just banned Glocks in Maryland.
Exactly. Right, because they can be converted.
Individuals on the left, my friends that I know...
You got one down your shirt?
My friends that I know on the left who are like, we got to make a stand against this fascist Nazi regime. And I'm like, okay, well, All right. Case in point, you do understand the Second Amendment was designed exactly for what you're saying.
That's exactly
It is the last check and balance
Yup.
in government against a tyrannical government. So if you believe that our current administration is tyrannical,
We have a
you should
duty.
want.
We have an obligation.
And we learned it.
you know-
We learned it on the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan.
right.
One determined individual with a weapon creates a massive amount of havoc.
Yeah, but you know, the other thing too is all these libs now are like, oh, we got to stop Trump. And so they're trying to buy guns. And they're like, wow, this is really hard to do, actually. Like, I have to get a background check? What is it?
Well, and one of the biggest arguments they make too is, so who needs look, I hate to say assault rifle because that's a made-up term, right?
Yeah.
But the AR platform, right? Who needs that for self-defense and etc. Well, if you look at the wording of the Second Amendment, it's about what you said, Jason.
Yeah.
It's about preventing tyranny of the government. That's what that's about.
Yeah.
No, that's not right, is it? There we go. Okay.
I remember my first day.
I remember my first day.
That was good. Okay.
The pointy end's the
Squeeze.
dangerous end. You put the pointy end
Squeeze.
forward.
Squeeze, Mark.
See, I just can't see the lines. I'm so blind.
I feel like I'm on The View. Bunch of excuses.
He's going to write an article now how this experience gave him PTSD.
Yeah.
You guys are going to laugh. This is, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I was about 7, this is what I learned to shoot with. My dad pulled no punches at 7.
Did you
2
fall on your
hands, you know.
Yeah, but were you the same size at 7?
No.
Probably just
I was about your size.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Yeah.
Exactly. 6 years old, he was deadlifting car. And
He came out of the womb my size.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go, brother.
All right, Jace. Is your broke-ass arm going to be able to take that?
I mean, this is full on like Dirty Harry right here.
Did I fire 5 rounds or 6?
Because the grip is it's impossible to stop the recoil, you know.
I'm going to go get my big hand cannon.
You know, and the thing is, this...
I do believe I was 5 for 5.
Yeah, you got it, brother. This is the one thing that's definitely going to get passed down to my boy.
See, I think that's...
That came from my dad. Now, my grandfather was a lefty. I have his Ted Williams model Sears Roebuck 12-gauge shotgun that has a left side port. Made for him from Sears Roebuck, back when you could order it out of the catalog. Thing's got to be 80, 90 years old.
Wow.
Still have it.
Nice.
Nice. 200. Holy cow. That was a trip. All right, before we go, it's time for term limits probably in the Senate. Some crazy speculations surrounding Senator Mitch McConnell next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist recommended Deyermond and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Deyermond Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
Hi, I'm Sally with SellMyPolicy.com, the fast concierge service here to help you sell your life insurance policy for cash now. Our experienced team makes it fast and easy for you to get your offer. Use the money however you want. John sold his policy for $590,000 in cash for health care. And Cheryl sold her policy for $90,000 in cash and used it to supplement her retirement income. If you are over 65 with a life insurance policy of $100,000 of coverage up to $50 million of coverage, then you may qualify. With Sell My Policy, some people choose to sell all or just part of their policy so they can access cash now while also keeping coverage in place for their loved ones. Plus, you'll get paid fast. Trusted by seniors, there's no obligation to sell. Find out what your policy is worth today.
It's fast and free with Sell My Policy.
Talk with a policy expert now to see how much cash you could receive. Call 800-910-2274 or visit sellmypolicy.com.
In America, we believe in hard work, family, and taking care of our own. That's why Safe Step walk-in tubs are proudly designed, built, and assembled in the USA, in the heart of Tennessee, by more than 300 hardworking Americans.
My name is Michelle Johnson. Lamination is where we put the fiberglass, resin, and gel coat on the actual product.
Skilled craft professionals, building every tub with precision, care, and pride. With a low step-in design, built-in safety features, and soothing therapeutic jets, Safe Step helps you stay comfortable, confident, and in control.
My name is Angela Peters. We make sure everything is as perfect as it can be.
When you choose Safe Step, you're not just investing in your home, you're supporting American families and American jobs. Call now for your free in-home consultation and ask about our special offer. Safe Step walk-in tubs, made in Tennessee, made for you.
The next thing that I heard was you have to have surgery immediately or you have 4 months to live.
Our world changed that day. Every 15 seconds in America, someone like Jay hears the words, "You have cancer." But your monthly gift helps fund the cancer research that saves people's lives. Donate today, and we'll send you this free t-shirt. Cancer won't wait, and neither can we. Donate today.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys experience ED. Guys, connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED, then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drupinski. I've been looking at the aging process for a long time. Fatty 15 actually slows it down. Fatty 15 comes out of Navy dolphin research. Without the C15, our cells become fragile and age and oxidize. This pushes that back. That's why I take Fatty 15.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Oh, I was just looking for my tinfoil hat because there's been some serious online speculation that Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell has either passed away or at very least is incapacitated in some way. Now, McConnell has been hospitalized for more than 3 weeks, and now there are demands for proof of life from people like myself, by the way. Longtime McConnell friend Scott Jennings, however, said that he spoke to Mitch McConnell this morning. No word about if he asked him about the SAVE Act, but McConnell's office had been dancing around the subject, saying, oh, he's actively working closely with his staff in Kentucky and blah, 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 blah. Excuse me for not believing this, because August 3rd is the deadline under Kentucky election laws that determines whether or not a special election could fill a U.S. Senate vacancy and whether or not it can be rolled into the regular November or 2026 general election. Now, speculation around Thomas Massie running as an independent, bypassing the GOP, and polling says he could actually win that seat. During this time, McConnell's wife, obviously, Rob, went to China and now has just returned home.
Yeah, there's something definitely screwy going on in Kentucky. I think we'd all admit that.
Right.
It's interesting. Carl, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.